Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Moa, aka Swedish Whiskey Girl, and the day has come and I'm a little bit nervous because I'm gonna try my NcNean. I realised I've been saying it wrong after listening to some of their videos. It's not NcNean, it's NcNean, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong because I do want to be right. But we are gonna try this today and I'm so happy that so many of you like the unboxing videos. I'll try and do some more in the future. And I am nervous because I kind of built this up in my head now. My expectations are really high. But I'm also going to admit that I did not know that they were releasing this inaugural release in a limited batch and then releasing their kind of new core expression, I think is what you can kind of call it. Because if I'd known, it might have been more beneficial for me to get that bottle, because I think that could be something that a wider audience might want to know and more people can of course get a hold of it since this one's now sold out. So apologies about that, and I will of course be excited to see what their other release will be like when it comes out in a month or so, I think. They're starting dispatching soon, so that will be exciting to see as well. But for now, we're trying this one. And of course, what I didn't mention in the unboxing video is that they actually donated the first 10 whiskies. I believe this is a batch of about 1,300 bottles from 5 different casks, and it's 65% STR red wine casks and 35% Ex-Bourbon casks, which is of course also bottled at cask strength, so 60.3 I believe. But the first 10 bottles were auctioned out with Whiskey Auctioneer, and I think bottle 1 alone raised about £40,000, and totally they managed to collect 92,000, I think, for that. Of course is going to different charities, which is of course brilliant. And I think they also broke the record by a mile for the highest price in an auction for a first release from a new distillery. So well done to NcNean. That is of course very exciting. But let's open this one up. I'm of course really excited about all these new distilleries that are coming up, and especially the ones that have Spirit coming this year. And NcNean is definitely one of them, because it's also great to see a distillery that has such big focus on sustainability, of course, as well. So they have a very unique approach, which just catches my interest even more. So let's have a little look on the nose. Ooh. I've never experienced a whiskey to be so piney, like pine needles and fresh pine. That's very curious. And then the pine kind of, you get a little bit used to it, so it kind of settles down. Almost a little bit chocolatey. Like a dark chocolate. Maybe like a blackberry tart. This is like pine blackberry tarts coming together. It's not overwhelmingly sweet, but it's quite elegant and quite... feels very much like nature in a way. A little bit of dark chocolate, maybe a dark chocolate blackberry tart. Very fresh, but almost more like pine fresh. A little bit perfumed. It is of course a little bit tricky because the ABV is quite high. So we are going to try it, and then I'll try a bit with a bit of water later on. So slanjava. I mean, quite punchy where it sits at such a high strength, but lovely flavour. It's quite dark, quite juicy. Dark but not dense, quite flowing. So instead of being dense, which feels quite heavy, this just feels like like a river, it just keeps flowing, because a river doesn't have to feel dense because it's not heavy, it just keeps moving. But it's not super light either. Still quite piney on the nose. I wouldn't say first thoughts are so piney on the palate, but it does have a big oak influence. And definitely a kind of a berry sweetness, or more a berry fruitiness, because it's not overly sweet, it just has a touch of sweetness from kind of the berry notes. Maybe still a little bit like a blackberry tart. Or jam maybe. But less sweet jam. The alcohol is, I feel like it's kind of hiding things. So I do want to try it with water straight away. I mean, if you like drinking your spirit strong, then please go ahead. But I'm so intrigued by this whiskey, I really want to be able to explore it fully. So we'll start by adding a little bit, and then we'll see if we'll need to add more. Still a little bit piney on the nose, but like a fresh wind. It's a little bit floral still. Like the pine has calmed down a bit, but it's has like a slightly perfumed floral note now as well. The alcohol's definitely calmed down a bit with the water, which is quite nice. It just makes it such a big flavour. I'm just trying to think, it feels quite purple. How do I explain that? It's quite purple and quite... That STR influence is coming through. It's very pleasant. So like the shaved toasted wheat charred wine cask, which I think has a big impact on how the spirit doesn't feel that young, but I don't feel like the cask influence is overwhelming either, which is very pleasant. And I know that before they released this one, they also send out samples to some of their newsletter subscribers. I wasn't one of the lucky ones, unfortunately, but they let them choose between either sample A or sample B, and they were different proportions of their cask types. So they got a little bit of help and feedback for what they should choose. It almost has like a tropical fruitiness with like a berry fruitiness as well, because berry fruitiness to me is not that dense, but because it has a dense fruitiness to it, it feels different. Like almost like apricots or like yellow raisins or something like that. And also a very interesting spice. It's almost like baking spice, but it's quite soft. I am gonna add a little bit more water. The finish is very pleasant. It's very fruity, but quite dark fruity. It's like a wonderful, it's a little bit more, so when I reviewed the Longmorn from the Secret Speyside collection, it had a nose of a fairy tale, what's that accent? Fairy tale forest, and this reminds me of that same note, that kind of fairy tale, dark, mystical forest. The floral notes I think calmed down a bit again, so now it's just that kind of forest vibe. Interesting, so now the sweetness, the juiciness, and the spice really got a kick. It's almost like it feels way sweeter now. I mean, it is. I was so worried that I would be disappointed because I have hyped it up in my brain a little bit. But I do think it's a lovely experience, and they've managed to do a really lovely, elegant first expression. And it's, with the water, I think it just grows, because sitting at 60%, 60.3 I think, it's just a bit much. The alcohol just kind of overpowers a bit. But now adding water, it just grows in flavours, which is very interesting. It annoys me that I can't pinpoint exactly what I think it is. But it's almost like a sweet citrus, so maybe like an orange vibe. The oranges mixed with blackberries and a juicy sweetness in that baking spice. Almost a bit of rye spice as well. It's a fascinating one, and I think because it is quite different, that's why I'm kind of struggling to find the words for it. And it's it's one of those whiskies that I think almost is easier to describe with a colour or a feeling, like it's quite dark and purple. And the oakiness is definitely there, but not overpowering. I don't experience it as vegetal at all. Might be a slight little vegetal note on the nose, but it's more forest vegetal than being like young vegetal. And I love that pine note on the nose. Yeah, for me it's kind of orange blackberry tart and maybe a slight bit of licorice because it has like a herby vibe to it. And then that baking spice. I think the bourbon influence comes in and makes it juicy, and I really appreciate it because it has a note that I tend to find in a lot of kind of first fill bourbon ones, that it's just this big, robust groundwork that makes me so happy to find it, and also calm that it's there kind of supporting everything. This has been such a pleasant experience, and I mean, of course, a massive thank you to my wonderful supporters on Patreon, because without your support I wouldn't have been able to buy this bottle. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll make sure to try and keep making content that you want to watch. But I would love to hear what you think. Have you managed to get a hold of one of those 1,320 bottles of Ainnir, or are you perhaps curious to find out what their core release will be? Please put your thoughts in the comment section here below. I love hearing your thoughts, of course. And if you like what I'm doing here on YouTube, I would of course be absolutely over the moon if you consider using my affiliate links the next time you're shopping with either the Whiskey Exchange, Master Malt, or the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. All the information is in the description here below, as well as links to my Patreon, my Teespring shop, my Instagram, and my website if you're curious about that. But I hope you've all had an absolutely wonderful day. Slán Skål.